Well, hello everyone. It's been a while. Sorry, I always think I'm gonna come out here and be in a stationary spot to talk to you, nice and relaxed, but there's always just so much to do. I gotta keep walking and use time in the best way possible. But I wanted to do a quick video today on trail cameras, specifically Moultrie cameras and Moultrie Mobile, and how that's been working for me. I also recently purchased two new stealth cams. It's like 45 NG Max. NG stands for no glow, and I'll be testing those out and also just kind of seeing the comparison, how they work and things of that nature. I don't know if you can see here, but probably 2 weeks ago from Monday, I believe, the farmer planted the soybeans, so you can see they're starting to come up. It looks nice. We actually had some deer, excuse me, about 5 or so deer last night, and a couple of deer this morning that I got on camera. But long story short, I don't have a four-wheeler, and I don't want to walk through the crops, so I spend a lot of time, unfortunately, walking around the fields to get to where I want to go to set up cameras and things of that nature. But to start off, the Moultrie cameras, they have been, I would say, pretty good. I have an assortment of cameras, M50i, M40, and then also the kind of newer, I believe last year, 7000 series that are cellular. Now bear in mind, you don't need to use those cameras for cellular. You can use them as regular cameras as well. But long story short, some of the positives: the mobile technology is pretty dang good, and the actual tech in the app, the detection to be able to detect a buck or even a person or fawn or something like that walking through or being in the picture is pretty amazing. And that's actually how I caught initially. I mean, I would have noticed, but the trespasser, because it even says, you know, person detected or whatever, and you kind of course get a few heart palpitations going when you see that. But so that part is very good. Also, just things being able to go into the app and organize it and see it is great. Moultrie's price has also been quite good. You know, you get a camera probably for half the price as you might with like Exodus or Spy Point, things like that. What else? Image quality has been pretty dang good. No complaints there really. And a lot of the negatives that I'll probably go over have to do with just regular cameras as well. So again, this is just my experience over the last, year or two, and then really mainly a couple months with the new property. So negatives being, on the app, one thing for me was the batteries. Sometimes it would say I have 50% battery left, and I really wouldn't. Then it would stop taking pictures or send me a message, and it just wouldn't make sense because I was supposed to have 50% battery left, and then you need to go change it, so on and so forth. Now, one of my recommendations for you guys is to buy a small $5 or $10 little battery tester, because sometimes, you're putting in typically lithium Energizer batteries or $1 a battery, and you want to be able to test those. When you take them out, you'll know if one's completely dead but one is still completely fine, and be able to use that again. Now, I noticed for the mobile cameras, if you do that, the ones that might have 3/4 life, they still will oftentimes trigger a poor battery in the camera. So my mobile ones, I will refresh with brand new batteries, and I'll use some of those other ones in my cameras that are not mobile. And I will notice that sometimes I almost seem to get a little better performance when I don't use a mobile one. Now, bear in mind, I'm using some cameras that might be 2 to 3 years old and have the additional modem that you can attach, whereas that 7000 series and this year's camera, the 6000, which doesn't make sense to me because the 6000 literally does not have as good of features as the year before, the 7000 series. So I don't know what they're doing, if they're going to come out with better cameras later or what, but it's like they're going backwards. So the modems, you have batteries in the modems and you have batteries in the cameras, and you got to hook that up. And I find that to be not only a pain, but you save a little bit of money just paying 50 or so bucks for the modem if you already own the cameras. If you don't, I strongly recommend going with the 7000 series. They had a rebate. I think it's over now, so you'll pay a little bit more. But and I went to hell and high water to get that rebate, by the way. But I feel like just the 12 batteries in that series, the good trigger speed, the good megapixels, worked very well. So that's kind of some of the negatives. Now, just in general with trail cameras, and specifically my experience with Moultrie, you know, you want to face the cameras north, of course. Sometimes the sun will set off false triggers, but it wasn't as bad nearly as if you put a camera near high weeds or branches or something that's going to keep setting your camera off. I did have that happen numerous times, especially as I, you know, started to do my own, sorry, we're going to be going into the woods here, started to do my own food plots and things like that. You know, I thought that it definitely wasn't going to be as you know, high off the ground because I was spraying and things like that. Well, it just didn't work out as perfect as, you know, I would have hoped. And well, that's kind of what happens. Then you have weeds that are still pretty tall, and it would keep setting off the camera, which was kind of a bummer. But other than that, you know, they tend to work fairly well. Now also, SD cards, a lot of these newer ones will, like these stealth cams that I just got, they'll take up to like 500 and something gig cards. Well, bear in mind, that's not going to be typical unless they're all new cameras. And also, if you're checking these once every couple months, you don't need a card that big. You don't need to spend the money. A typical up to 32 or 16 gig card you can get for $8 on Amazon, and I'll link some of those below so you guys can take a look. And I typically have 2 per camera, so I can swap them out, no problem. Go view the ones that are on the card and then put a new one in the camera. Okay, getting to the next field here. What else? So I went over price a little bit. Let me take a quick look. I took some notes. Try and put the cameras on a tree that's bigger than the camera, you know, hide it. If you can't, or like for me right now, I haven't done as much in the woods, I will use a camera stick, and I'll stick that off the field where, you know, things aren't as high, and you know, I'm able to get decent pictures off of the ag field. But eventually these crops are going to go away depending on what's planted, and you're going to have to find a tree or keep using these sticks because, again, if it's too brushy, it's just going to keep messing up the camera. Now, I don't know if I relayed this enough earlier, but without the mobile tech, sometimes I don't get as many false triggers. So if there is a little bit of brush or whatever, as long as it's not moving a lot, you should be okay. But it's kind of annoying to go through 1,000 photos and have only a couple of them have deer and whatnot. What else? Also, always format the camera. Meaning you can delete the pictures, or you can put the card in the camera, the trail cam, and there's always a feature right there to format the card. Do it, because that sets the card to be ready for that specific camera. And especially if you're using multiple brands or a digital camera, you don't want to come back a month later and not have any pictures on that. So it takes 2 seconds. Make sure you do that. And then really last couple things. One, try and have an attraction for the camera, whether it be a water hole or a mock scrape. I mean, a squirrel. Set those up near where your stands are going to be, so you're creating a pattern, and also because it gives them a reason to stop. I can't tell you how many times I get, you know, something coming by that I barely get an image of, because 2 things. 1, there's nothing to stop them, and 2, some cameras do photo, some do video, some do both. Now, the new stealth cams I know don't do both. You have to select one or the other. I personally like video, but if you do have both, like on Moultrie, which is a nice feature, it takes the picture first, it seems, and then starts the video. So if they're halfway through the frame already and not stopping, and then the video starts, you know, you're not going to get as much. But I will say, I love the video, and I recommend the video feature to you because you get a better sense of where they're going, where they're coming from, and also, especially with the bucks, you know, they turn a different way, and you really, you know, get to see the rack a little better. I can't tell you how many times I thought it was a little spike, and then they turn and you actually see that it's growing out past their ears, and that, oh, it could actually be a decent, you know, maybe 3.5-year-old, hopefully some 4.5, etc., depending on where you live. So bear that in mind. I really recommend the video, and you can always do a screenshot or something if you want a photo of a deer or whatever. In addition, websites like camofire.com, just like it sounds, you know, there's a bunch out there that give you discounts on things of that nature. Sometimes, yes, they're not that good. Sometimes they are pretty good, and do your research, but I highly recommend using some of those to get deals on cameras, because, you know, you're probably going to have a few of them out, most likely, whether you're hunting public land or you own some private land, and things of that nature. So I hope some of those tips help you kind of limit your mistakes, things like that. Again, overall with Moultrie, I do, for the price, like the cameras. You know, I would maybe only have 1 or 2 on the mobile side and the rest just spread out. And then I'll go collect the cards and just use them that way. It's cheaper. It's not as, you know, bothersome if it's not working, and the batteries and so forth. If I'm going to get a mobile one, I recommend that 7000 series the most. Otherwise, you know, the other ones that are cheaper, I'll set them out and just put the cards in and go get them a month later or every couple weeks, something like that. I'll put these stealth cams out hopefully today, hopefully some mock scrapes as well, and I'll go over that process in another video, and then I'll do a later video on those stealth cams and show you kind of the difference. I think they're a higher megapixel, you know, and just go over the pros and cons of those as well. So lots have also been done at the campsite, so I'm going to do a couple videos and get you guys updated, and you'll be able to see everything we've been working on, so stay tuned. Bye.